I'm joined today in the studio by Julia Gahagan. Julia is seen quite a lot at quilt shows, and she's famous, if I may say so, for making miniature quilts with shadow applique. And I learned today that you are a recent prize winner with this lovely little piece of work.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
So when and where?
At Quilts UK, the Malvern quilt show, I was lucky enough to win first in the miniature quilt section, and I was absolutely delighted that I also won the overall runner-up for the quilt show. So my tiny little quilt got that magnificent prize.
Well, justifiably so, but it's nice to know that something so intricate can actually achieve such a great award. Well done you.
Thank you.
But this, to me, doesn't look like shadow applique.
When I enter competitions, I use a very fine chiffon so that it disappears and blends right into the background, so you literally can't see it once you've stitched over it. When I'm doing my kits and patterns,
Like these,
then I use this much softer net, which you can feel it in the quilt, but you don't actually see it until you're really up close examining it.
similar techniques though.
Definitely. I don't use the chiffon in the kits and patterns because it tears very easily.
So not as user-friendly, really.
No.
You need to be aware of what's
That's right,
going on.
yeah.
Okay. So talk me through how you do these lovely little pictures.
Okay, well, the little village scenes, so like these little quilts here, I've got a couple of little samples. People don't actually believe how quick and easy it actually is, but all these shapes are freely cut. So I usually have a design sheet that I follow, and I freely cut them, and I use a glue to actually apply them onto the background. And we're just talking about a really small amount of glue onto the design shape. That's placed on the background.
Okay.
I draw the tree trunks with a fabric pen.
Right.
And then I use this soft net that goes over the top, and then I quilt it. And that's how all these little designs are put together. The quilt in itself can be really, really simple. So for example, this quilt here, it's literally just wavy lines of straight stitch that are machine quilted through the whole piece.
So it's that straight stitching that's holding all of these diddy bits of fabric into place, not really the glue so much. That's just for
the glue secures it initially.
From
the
moving
net
while you
traps it.
Traps it.
And
Brilliant.
then
Yes.
the stitching is what finally keeps it together.
Place.
So it works really well for miniature quilts. You wouldn't use it in a larger quilt because obviously that quilt would be used a lot and it might have to be washed, but it works perfectly for small miniatures.
Do you need the walking foot to do that?
You don't. I use an open-toed foot when I'm doing those straight lines. I don't use the walking foot because you haven't got the depth in the wadding, because it's a very light,
Oh, I see. Good.
thin wadding. If you can free machine quilt, then you can use that meandering pattern that goes around the shapes. So they really are clearly trapped then within the machine quilting. People do say to me, am I allowed to stitch through the shapes? Because people think that it's wrong to do that. And it doesn't feel natural, but it just works. And the overall effect at the end of it is that it looks nice, and it is very quick and very easy. I've also got a little sample for a seaside quilt, and these are even easier, so that you place your sky fabric on the thin wadding, and then you have a strip for your sand.
This is very thin wadding. What is it?
It is. It's Hobbs thermal.
Oh, okay.
So it's a polyester wadding, but it's been needle punched so that the fibres are drawn in very tightly, which makes it so thin, and it's perfect for miniatures. So sky fabric, sand fabric, and then I just layer strips for the sea fabric, and I might cut a wave shape in. On this piece of very fine fabric, I've frayed the edge, and then I usually go light to dark, and I might pop a pin just to secure those while I'm placing the beach huts. And again, a small swipe of glue, and the beach huts usually sit just on the sand. And then the fiddlier part is definitely the roofs, and sometimes I might use a pair of tweezers to reduce the amount of actually handling it.
Yes, I can see me getting glue everywhere. I'm a real 5-year-old where glue is concerned.
Yes, and that's actually, it's really important that people realise it isn't like using the glue sticks with young children where you smother the shapes with glue. It's just a very small dab.
It's to stop it falling.
Yeah, the net goes over the top, and then I might then, because I haven't glued the fabric strips on this one, I'll just pop some pins in, and then I will quilt it. And with the little seaside ones, I would probably run the quilting horizontally across the quilt because it matches with the lines of the shapes, and that can be done by hand or machine.
So other than doing little wall hangings, which I assume these are because they've got buttons in, you can't use them as table mats or anything, is there anything else that I could use this lovely idea with?
Yep, there's a variety of things. I'm often asked that, what can I do with a little quilt? So they're perfect as greetings cards. So you don't even have to back them or bind them, just cut them really neatly and then glue them onto a card.
I was going to say, do you stitch them through the card? I can't see because these are in the film. But no, you just glue them onto the card.
Yep, so I'd make the little quilt, trim it all off neatly and then glue it onto the card.
Okay.
This one is on a board so that could sit nicely in a picture frame. Notebooks, so I've actually put the little quilt onto a book cover, quilted that as well.
That's nice.
And made a nice little book cover, and the same for this little Mediterranean scene. Again, you can see the stitching that runs horizontally across there. Got some nice decorative machine stitches as well.
You could presumably do this by hand too if you like to do hand.
Definitely,
stuff.
yeah. I like to combine hand and machine stitches.
Yes.
I think that works really effectively. And then on this one, I've even made a little pouch for glasses or tools or knickknacks. So there are, and then obviously that could be a much larger size as well. There are uses for the little quilts.
Well, thank you very much. As last time, I'm going to give my scrap bag and my waste bin a whole new look because
You never throw anything away.
I was going to say you don't, do you? These are really so diddy and so delightful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Valerie.